Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Bedtime Stories with Neelu. How are you? Thank you so much for yesterday's story responses on the story The Cracked Pot. So, the message in the story was that if we focus on our strengths instead of our weaknesses, we can lead a better life. So, those who missed this story can watch it on my IGTV on Instagram anytime. So, coming to today's story is from the life of King Akbar. So, those who don't know who's Akbar, he was one of the finest rulers of India. So, one day Akbar goes hunting and he loses his way. He loses track of time and loses his way. So, then he looks here and there and starts calling for help. A man called Gangadhar, who stays in a nearby hut, hears his cry and comes to help him. Then he sees the king and he says, Your Majesty, I know the way to the palace. Can I lead you? So Akbar feels very relieved and happy and gifts Gangadhar an emerald ring from his hand. And Gangadhar leads him to the palace and drops him off there. Then Akbar tells him, Please come down sometime to the palace so that I can reward you with something better. So Gangadhar goes back home and then after a few days he returns to the palace. So on the moment he tries to enter the palace guard stops him and he says, Who are you? You don't seem to be the kind of person who can meet the king. So he says, I really want to meet the king and the king promised me a reward and he shows him the emerald ring. So then the guard feels very greedy. Then he says, Look, whatever reward you're getting, you should give me 50% of it. Then only I'll allow you to go into the palace. So the poor man agrees and then walks ahead. Then there's another guard. He stops him and says the same thing. He says, I want you to give me 50% of your reward. Again, Gangadhar agrees to it and he walks ahead and goes to meet King Akbar. So Akbar sees him and feels very happy and says, Oh, you saved my life. What do you want? Please tell me. Say anything what you want. So to this, Gangadhar bows down his head and says, Your Majesty, I want 100 lashes as a reward. So Akbar gets very surprised and everyone in the court gets surprised by this unusual demand. So then, and Gangadhar says, Please call, I request you to call your palace guards. So then Akbar calls out for them and they come there. So once they come there, Gangadhar says, Can you please, distribute my reward amongst these two people, 50 for one and 50 for the other. So the palace guards start feeling very happy. What is 50? Maybe we are going to get, money. So 50% of what this man is getting. But then Akbar understands the situation and then he says, okay, so both these people will get 50-50 lashes each because they stopped Gangadhar from entering the palace and they asked for bribe. And then he throws them in the prison. And he gives Gangadhar a post in the palace itself and Gangadhar stays back there forever. So this is the story of from the life of Akbar. So many people in our daily lives, they keep stopping us and they're very, very greedy. They want to grab something free out of every situation. So one day I remember I was going for my classes and I was standing in a queue to take tickets for in the railway station. So there were so many people ahead of me and I saw this man, the clerk, sitting at the counter cheating people with money. So if anyone would give him 50 rupees and if he had to return 40 rupees, he would return only 30 rupees by counting 1, 2, 3, 4 and giving only 3 notes back. Yeah. So he would count right but give money, less money back. So one day I had to, every day I kept noticing this clerk who was cheating people. So 3-4 days I noticed this and one day I was carrying 100 rupees. So I gave him 100 rupees. It was early morning, 6:30. So this man started counting the notes. He had to return 80 rupees to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And he gave me 70 rupees. So I said, Where is my 10 rupees? So he was astonished. He said, But I gave you your money. I said, No, I have counted in front of him and I told him, You gave me less. And I said, I have seen you cheating people every day. I was standing in the queue and I would observe you. So today, it's my turn. So I'm telling you, don't cheat people like this. So he kept arguing, I didn't cheat. It was by mistake and all that. And I then walked out. So this is what I remembered when I read the story. There are so many people who are ready to grab, there are opportunists all over. So if you remember any instance from your life, please write it down in your comments. I would surely respond to anything related to the story. Thank you so much for your attention, and I will see you here again on Bedtime Stories with Neelu. Thank you so much, Adil, Khushi, and Sneha, for your responses, wonderful responses on yesterday's story. So sleep well, stay well, leave all the worries aside, and get up with a fresh thought. I'll see you tomorrow here again. Good night.